Woo! Hey, what's up? What's up? Yes. Good to have you. Good to be here this evening. Let's go. I don't know what you're doing. I hope you are cozy, depending on where you are in this country. Because most likely, if you're out of this country, you may not be watching it, but you may watch it in replay. I know. I want to give some shout outs. I want to give some big shout outs to all y'all in Africa right now. Like, I appreciate y'all in Africa. I got to give the shout outs because it's amazing when you do this and you just never know who's really listening and watching. But I would like to give a shout out 100% to all my people that are in Africa. I thought I know there's some Kenya out there. I know there's some South Africa. I can't remember some of the other countries. The big continent. Anyways, I appreciate you guys. We're gonna have some good time. See who's in the room. I see you guys. See if we can wrap this up. Make it look a little wild and crazy. I got so many screens here popping off. Let's see here. Yes. All right, let's get it moving. Pop over here. Oh, yeah. Always. Thank you guys for showing up. You know what? Just to come in here and see who's in the room, see if y'all talking, see if y'all like, hey, what's up, y'all? I know there's a lot of people that will jump on these lives and they may not say anything, but I'm good with it. That's fine. Of course, none other than Miss Smith. We appreciate you. I appreciate you more than anybody. I'll tell you that right now. I really want to be able to hear your voice. Personally tell you thank you. And we have, of course, Mother White. Yes, she's always in the room. Always in the room. We love you. We thank you. And you have some amazing stories. One day we need to have a meet and greet. I need to do that. Get that scheduled ASAP for this December. Maybe if you watching, you help remind me. You getting involved with the local side of this. I will be talking about that. Just the local side along with the digital side. Get some people together so they can kind of help me pull this together. Who's ever out there right now, never give up. And not only that, go get you some hot tea. Because I know right now in Tulsa, Oklahoma, it is, I just came from outside and I was like, whoo, I kind of like it, a little chilly though. Chicago is 22. It's pretty cold. It's 30 degrees. I know I have completed the task of bringing. I'm gonna mess with this. Look at that. Like, oh, see them? There's some other ones over there. They're all over there, and then there's some on the ground there. I can't move the camera. That's all of the planties. All my plants. We got some plant lovers out there. I like plants. Sometimes they don't like me. 30 degrees. It's going to be up to 50 tomorrow. Miss Holly Hoffman, I appreciate you. She is in Texas. And we got Miss Charlotte, a dear friend who I've worked with. She's probably one of the coaching people that I've coached with. What a beautiful soul. I might need you as a testimony so people don't know I'm not baloney. This is ginger peach. I like tea. I like coffee. I used to like wine, but not all the time. It don't like me that much. Make me go to sleep. But that's Miss Charlotte Harper. She is a business owner. She owns a appliance repair business here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. What a beautiful soul. She helped me few years back before I got my brand new Maytag, which she also influenced. You should have made some money off that deal. I spent $2,500 over there. No, it was more than I don't know. I don't know how much those things were. I know they ain't cheap. Yeah, about $1,500 a piece. Woo, Miss Gwen. Everybody say hello to Miss Gwen. Miss Gwen, I believe you on the East Coast. No, you on the West Coast. Sometimes I got it confused because you went and seen Miss Dorothy. Which, yeah, I don't see Miss Dorothy tonight. We have to end the stream if Miss Dorothy don't show up. Thank you, Miss Gwen. Miss Teresa, thank you so much. If I would like for y'all to put in the chat too, also where y'all hailing from, just because I know where some people are, like Miss Marie, I believe, is coming all the way from Nashville, Tennessee. Beautiful soul. We had a brief conversation not too long ago. Hey, Miss Tia. Some people are be on Facebook and YouTube so they can communicate. I know John Thomas, he showed me. He'll have his YouTube on his TV. He got a nice setup. He got his YouTube on his big screen TV, and then he'll sit on his phone on Facebook so he can comment. That, my friend, is the best way to watch Expanded Consciousness. Believing, going beyond belief, right? Need to redo that logo. Expanded Consciousness, going beyond belief. Parker, yes, it's good to have you in the room. Thank you for speaking up, speaking out. I didn't see you before. Oh, of course. I'm gonna start getting on him if he don't show up. I will stop being your friend. Ron Hudson. He'll be in the room for a little while until you go to sleep. He kind of, you hit that 9 o'clock or whatever, and just put him to sleep, I guess. It is 7:55 in Louisiana. Let's see. I hope they can get in, dear God. I unlocked the thing. Let's see. We got 17 degrees. I'm sorry, y'all. The front door is unlocked. Oh, are you sure? Okay, oh my God. I unlocked it for you on purpose. I unlocked it on purpose, but she just gonna call me. That's what you have when you have a baby daughter. She just start knocking and call me. And I unlock the door so she can get in. But she can go through the side door or through the garage. Sorry, y'all. Thank you, Brother Joel. It's good to see you. Miss Velma. Man, I hope you guys are ready. I hope y'all ready. Hey, Robin. Robin. Y'all, Robin used to be. Look at him. Look at those glasses with that beard. Say it ain't so. He's like, I'm about to be sexy up in these glasses and this beard. All right, we got some cities. All right, good, good, good. Miss Wanda, it's good to see you too. Hey, Ivory. Ivory is a dear friend who was a dear friend or assistant, if you will. She done a lot of stuff for Carmen. So I met her through Carlton and Carmen's relationship. So she worked with Carmen on things and we're friends. And then of course we became friends probably about 3 years ago. Um, and she used to be in Vegas, the cat lady, and now she is in Seattle with her family, her husband, and 3 kids. Thank you, sis. Cool. Okay, 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 okay. Let's see. Let's get these notes rolling. It is 8:44, right? If you get bored, that's not my problem. You're not gonna get bored, I promise you. Because this is fire. I get these topics and these things that hit me, guys. It can hit me in the middle of the night. It can hit me during the day. And I'm gonna tell you, sometimes it gets too carried away and it hits me all the time, and then therefore I get so much hitting me that I lose it. And I have about 17 things I want to talk about. I want to talk about all 17 things all at the same time. Here, I forgot, make sure I share this post. Depending on who you are, um, you don't have to share it because it might get a little controversial. Just a little bit, not a lot. Depends on who you are. People really don't necessarily come for me like they would come for Bishop or which is fine. I don't, you know, I'm talking about expanding consciousness. It just when you look at expanding your consciousness, like that is not like new thought. That is not like even just spirituality. That is not a singular thing when it comes to. I just want to make that clear. Y'all clear with me? I want to make it clear that expanding your consciousness, this could run until at least 10:15 or 10:30. I'm sorry. Expanding your consciousness, because you have expanding consciousness and you have expanded consciousness. It's all the same, right? Expanding your consciousness is something that is just, I believe, that is kind of a natural thing that humans do. If you listen to some scholars, some scientists, they talk about the divine intelligence. The divine intelligence to me, it's like what's inside of us. Some people say spirit, some people say all these other things. That's included. But the divine intelligence is a way for we to measure, right? Because spirit is hard to measure. But if we look at consciousness as something that is all around us, right? And it's there, and we use our brain that we know of in terms of where memory and certain things that they're even still struggle with pinpointing because your body keeps the score. So you have things throughout your whole body that is connected also to your brain. We know you have a pineal gland, right? But with the spirit molecule, there's different molecules and things inside your body, like endocannabinoids. That's what you get from THC, right? You get in cannabis. Cannabis, if you have any forms of cannabis, it will affect your endocannabinoids, right? And so the endocannabinoids, because of THC, cannabis plant is an endocannabinoid. And so that's the reason why you have effects. I can go really deep and take you way far. I might do some of that stuff in the community if anybody ever want to learn about plant medicines from a very, very deep standpoint. Expanding consciousness. I'm gonna get that thought out of my head. expanding your consciousness, and consciousness is everywhere around. We got our brains, and our brains filter through no our brains filter through and pull into us, but then this thing, and we have, of course, the ego, and as things pour through us, I'm black, I'm a male, I'm a this, I'm a that, all these different things. I went to school, I went to college. That's things that I've done to help hopefully expand my consciousness, right? And what you're doing right now is hopefully your brain is there, and hopefully you understand that you got switches and levers, if you will. And when you hear new information, when you do a meditation, when you there's certain activities you can do with the brain that causes it to rewire, if you will, right? New connections, the synapses, new connections in your brain. You can actually not just get smarter, you can get healthier. You can live not only longer, but you can live fulfilled. Come on. When you are with me and doing this, I promise you it's time for you to open up, realize, understand that we used to talk about this thing called the Holy Spirit, which I can understand and give it reverence. But that terminology is kind of locked into a space that I feel can be limited. And that's what we're going to find out tonight, is how we could feel in trouble. And I have a whole nother post coming out about this with Carlton, because he had a show he did some time ago. And I remember it. It's been on my heart. I watched it originally. It was in 2014. And he talked about, you're not in trouble, you're in transition. And boy, can I tell you about this, because the thing is, I do and work with transformation, understanding transformation. When you expand your consciousness, or realize that consciousness is expanding, Newman's theory of health as expanding consciousness, which proposes that all individuals can achieve a state of health that involves the experience of interacting and connecting to the environment, right? Higher consciousness. When we look at expanding our consciousness, and that consciousness, if we can just say it as awareness, that's just on the low level. On the low level, consciousness is just awareness. But on the high level, when we look at consciousness as being already expanded, it's no different than when you look to manifest something. It's you look to manifest something, and that means that it is already done, right? Because if you want to play around with your scriptures and all that, you can. When it begins to talk about faith and how faith works. We could take it a step further, but realize and understand this. As we speak it, it's one thing. As we visualize it, it's another thing. But as we begin to feel as though, or act as though, the thing has been already done, you're about to expand your consciousness. And the reason why we meditate, the whole reason why we meditate, and that is a conscious practice of saying, I'm going to sit down and take a moment and take a minute, right? And see my thoughts, feel my thoughts, or let my thoughts go, because they're there, right? It's all there. And I was going to mention that your stomach, the gut, and the heart, right? Getting into the chakra stuff, right? The gut and the heart, your gut instinct, all this stuff is interconnected. That's why they say the body keeps the score. And so as we learn to, and I'll do a meditation before the night is over, as we learn to take this seriously and do this daily, just like I was talking about rewiring those synapses, listen, 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 listen. One of the things that I come across, of course, we deal with, and anybody that's listening to me know that I talk about and we deal with, um, within the realm of expanding our consciousness, we are expanding our awareness. So we realize, open up, and understand that I want to deconstruct means I want to review my feelings. I want to review my emotions. I want to review what I have experienced in my life. We're going to just deconstruct our thoughts, our psyche. But if I want to deconstruct also that's a whole nother level. My reality. What is my reality? See, we're getting into some expanded consciousness because we're getting into the science. But we're going to break that thing down, and we're going to come down, of course, to our faith or our beliefs that we have been originally, that we come to this planet over the last 400 years. We have been within this country, but we understand through colonization, right, and through a lot of manipulation and an agenda that was placed knowingly at the time, but I don't know how consciousness was whenever everybody was around then. Because I think so many people have drank the Kool-Aid, was drinking the Kool-Aid, and continue to drink the Kool-Aid when it comes to who has the grand authority over how we are able to think about and review our lives individually. When a person wants to come out and talk about whether a person should be thinking about deconstructing their faith, you're not in trouble, you're in transition. Okay? Although it can feel like trouble, although we can actually go through some circumstances, um, it does not mean that we have to accept it as just trouble. We can understand that trouble, as we used to say, don't last always, but we never did get the reason why it doesn't last always, right? The assumption is that trouble didn't last always because we had Jesus and we have the church and we have all these things that are supposed to make our day better. And and if you read some of the statistics on, um I just read one statistic that said, and it really didn't break it down, it was only a sample of about 1,000 people, and it talked about that people of faith can have, as far as the happiness scale, and it was like for America it was 14%, and it was like 1%, 14, something to do with 14% of the people, but I know it was a 1% difference, but which I find kind of ironic. It's kind of like when we start talking about the divorce rates, when it's like you're supposed to get everything out of going to a place of worship. Getting to my notes here, and everybody's okay and good because I really can't see y'all. Y'all can talk amongst yourself, but I get all I get all into this. Thank y'all. All right. But I think and I believe that you will find something. As you've seen my post, I kind of get those out late. I want to get them out early. But it says throughout history, we have seen periods of great awakenings in America, intertwined with the era of enlightenment. Great awakenings basically are something that we would notate as things that happened within church, which we also would say is the monopolizer of spirituality in our country, the monopolizer of our minds, that they own spirituality and that they own God. But what do these movements really mean for us today? Are we in the midst of another shift. Hold on, let me see here. Um, so tonight we're going to talk about the fascinating history of awakening in the church and the ripple effects in American society. We're going to also talk about the Great Awakenings and Enlightenment and how they shape spiritual and consciousness expression, and then why we deconstruct. Those are some of the things. This will have a little bit of the are we in trouble in transition? This is going to be bigger. I've already got another post that gets a little bit deeper on us personally, as in how we feel and the trouble we feel, but then the transition that we know that we can that is taken in our lives. And we have a choice. We have a choice to accept the transitions, see the transitions, make the transitions happen or not. But first, what I want to do is I want to take you on a little journey here. Because this video was very important to an understanding. Because what I want you to understand more than anything is, as we look to, we can go through a lot of different things in terms of when we talk about deconstructing our faith, in terms of like how we feel, this wasn't wrong, that one wrong, that was wrong, this was wrong, that was wrong. What a lot of people tend to do when it comes to this is they try to take the scriptures and rewrite the scriptures, try to get more of their original text, which I understand. The difference between, I believe, what I'm trying to feel in my own life is I'm not trying to build another religion or another faith. I'm not trying to build an alternative way to be a Christian. I'm not trying to build an alternative way to be a Christian. I think being a Christian is dry here. My lips are dry. I'm sorry. So it's bugging me. Being a Christian today, is deeper than just saying it, because there's so many people that get to own the title, no different than they get to own God. But we're going to explore. And one of the things that I think we need to do, we got to figure out why we got here, right? I had this set, but then something happened. So, there's more than one of these videos. We're going to review some of this, maybe about 10 minutes ish of this. We're not going to watch all of it. But I will post it in the community, and then that way we can follow up in the community on this topic. Here we go. All right. Now, everybody, pay attention, because you are about to get ready. That's all I got to say. Get ready. And I might pause it during this. Let's see. Okay, good. Now, what this is going to do is I want you to open yourself up. And I just want to hopefully this provides clarity for who you are, right? As you begin to look at who we are, right? And the reason why we are choosing to deconstruct, and the reason why we are choosing to have this shift. I already know that this is cosmic, and you just are on the frequency. If you're listening to me right now, I know there's 21 of you right now, and if you're listening to me right now, you're automatically included on a high frequency. You're already in a higher level of consciousness, not because of me, but because you are willing to be able to explore who you are, and you're being able to explore very controversial things that can be controversial people. No different than philosophers, right? What they would go through by saying that the earth is not flat, or saying that speaking on things that the religious would say, no, you can't do that. They did not want people to come outside the box. They didn't want people to explore too far. They were afraid for people to explore, whether they're afraid that people would learn or know too much, or whether they were truly honestly afraid. We're still living in that space. We're still living in that time. And right now, even within our political system, they don't want us to truly expand also, because if the system can keep us unaware, it can continue doing what it's doing. You're not in trouble. You're in transition because you're here. And here's one of the reasons why.
This is a map showing the percentage of adults who are highly religious per state. Looking at it, you'll notice this southern region over here is much more distinct than the rest. In fact, it's so distinct, it even has its own name, the Bible Belt. Protestant Christianity plays a strong role in society here, and church attendance across the denominations is much higher than the nation's average. But why is that? Why is this part of America so much more religious than the rest? New England was literally founded by Puritans who thought Europe was too godless, and is now the most atheistic region in the Union. So what's happened? Well, to understand this religious flip-flop and the intensity of it in the South, we need to go all the way back to the beginning. And back to the literal founding of the 13 colonies themselves, with the first one being Jamestown, Virginia in 1607. Like with many other European powers at the time, economic reasons were the best way to sum up the motivations for colonization, and the British colonizing North America was no different. So people were sent to live in this area to establish a British settlement here, and since they came from England, where the Church of England, aka the Anglican Church, was the official state religion, the people who made up this region were mostly Anglican. The thing is though, the Church of England at this point in time had only been separated by the Roman Catholic Church and turned into a Protestant Anglican country since 1534. And even then there were some brief restorations of Catholicism, like under the reign of Queen Mary I from 1553 to 1558. So the point I'm trying to make is, even though the Church of England was technically Anglican, there were still many retained elements of Catholicism in it. And this is where the Puritan movement became a thing, because they were a group of people who wanted to purify the church from what they viewed as Catholic practices, and to implement a more rigorous form of worship and church governance. But the thing is, their efforts and beliefs caused tension and persecution, causing them to flee the country and to create a society in the manner they believed God truly intended it to be designed. So from 1620 to 1640, there was a Puritan migration to the New England colonies of British America, with as many as 20,000 of them making the trip over, mostly in families as opposed to isolated individuals, and establishing the now Plymouth colony, the second permanent English colony in America after Jamestown. So at this point in time, there was basically a religious divide between Puritanism in the north and the Anglicans in the south. This was reflected in their living too, with the Puritans establishing a society deeply rooted in their faith, with strict moral codes and a focus on community worship. The Puritans' influence was so profound that it permeated nearly every aspect of life in New England, from governance to daily routines. Meanwhile, in the South, and it's not to say they weren't religious at all, because they certainly were, but their motivation for the settlement was largely economic from the start.
Oh man, I got this on the wrong account. Sorry. I usually have this on my other account.
Focused on agriculture, trade, and that sort of stuff. The establishment of the Anglican Church in these colonies was part of replicating English societal structures and maintaining loyalty to the crown. There were also a mix of other denominations among settlers too, meaning that there was no one central religious identity that held all the power. So as a result, the societal structure in southern states like Virginia were more hierarchical and less centered around religion compared to the Puritan North. Then things started to change. You see, while the original Puritan settlers were this very religious bunch, as time passed, the second and third generations of settlers, who were born in the New World, didn't always share the same intensity of religious conviction or the sense of urgency that drove their ancestors. Some even started to become disinterested in it for all the adherence it required. And as the colony began to develop more, economic prosperity started to take precedence over religious matters for many people. The once religiously unified society also started to see a migration of people with different backgrounds and beliefs over time, diluting the Puritan influence and their ability to enforce religious conformity. It was these things that led to the rise of secularism in New England. Now, you may be thinking, wouldn't the South be affected by these things too? And you'd be right, it did. But ironically, being less religiously intense actually helped preserve Christianity there. Let me explain. Because the South was less homogeneously religious, it meant that over time evolved a form of Christianity that was more intertwined with everyday life and less rigid than Puritanism, allowing for a more flexible adaptation of religious practices to changing social conditions. This helped sustain its influence, leading religion in the South to become a part of the cultural identity, beyond just theological obedience. Along with this, there was also a geographical factor at play. While both regions started off with agriculture as the main business, the geography and climate of New England is less conducive to large-scale agriculture than those of the South. New England has rocky soil, a relatively rugged terrain, and a shorter growing season, making large-scale farming more challenging. In contrast, the South has more fertile soil and a longer growing season, which supports large plantations. This meant that New England's economy diversified early on. Fishing, shipbuilding, and trade were significant economic activities alongside farming. The region's abundant water power from its rivers was also a key factor in its early industrialization. New England became a center for manufacturing, with industries like textiles and clockmaking growing rapidly from the end of the 18th century. And this industrial growth spurred urban development as people moved to cities for factory jobs. So, while the South did care about their economy obviously, they were and have been able to maintain a more agricultural focus, having been initially based on cash crops like tobacco, cotton, and rice, which relied heavily on slave labor.
Cheap slave labor on vast tracts of land owned by the planter.
And this agricultural focus created a much different economic trajectory compared to the North's industrialization, with theirs starting much later, particularly after the Civil War. Obviously, the impact on religion of this was also key. The more rural and agricultural nature of much of the South for a longer period helped maintain a traditional, community-centered way of life, where the church played a significant role. Whereas the industrialization, and hence urbanization of the North, led to the growth of public education, which often led to increased exposure to diverse viewpoints and a greater emphasis on secularism. Now, I realize I basically just time jumped from the beginning and development of these 13 colonies to the end of the Civil War. But it was also everything that happened between these two time periods that heavily contributed to making the US South much more religious than the North. Simply put, the Great Awakening, a series of religious rivals. Now, like I said before, the South was affected by the same things as the North, just to a lesser degree due to the reasons mentioned above. So religion wasn't in a great place across all the colonies. A lot of this was due to the rise of the Age of Enlightenment, an intellectual and philosophical movement that occurred in Europe from the end of the 17th century. Enlightenment thinkers wanted to improve human conditions on Earth rather than concern themselves with religion and the afterlife. These thinkers valued reason, science, religious freedom, and what they called natural rights: life, liberty, and property. Naturally, the Enlightenment movement made its way across the Atlantic too, to the 13 colonies. In many ways, religion was becoming more formal and less personal during this time, which led to lower church attendance. Churches couldn't keep up with population growth. Christians were feeling complacent with their methods of worship, and some were disillusioned with how wealth and rationalism were dominating culture. The colonies were still deeply religiously divided at this point too, with the Puritans in the north, the Anglicans in the south, and the middle colonies basically a mix of everything, from Quakers to Lutherans to Baptists to Presbyterians, and a few other.
Parents,
Oh,
are you
man.
doing
I
enough
gotta
to get
tell you
your
that.
child into a top university? Do you work?
I'll do it in a minute.
And we may be their last hope.
We'll stop right there. That's the reason why. Until I can flip my accounts, because this one's running ads. That's annoying. I hope I already know that where you guys are, and anybody that's listening to me right now, I know for a fact that some of you guys should be able to kind of correlate what happened to how we got to where we are has a lot of connection to where we were and where we are today, and what you might be feeling and what the world may be feeling. Because what that failed to do is not necessarily get a real true glimpse of what really is going on and what is happening to, because as we go through these phases, as we go through this journey, the awakenings, which they would be considered within the church, there was probably 3 or 4. They didn't even talk about the Pentecostal movement, right? When the Africans, basically what I look at the Pentecostal movement is when they will give you a theological based reason for them to shout, dance, dance like David dance, you know, um, speaking in tongues. They have their own theological reason that in, sanctification, holiness, and all that stuff. But it had already started, the way a person preach and all those things had started like literally, 200 years or 100 years. Yeah, no, at least 200 years before the Pentecostal moment. They had already started. We will watch more of that video once I can switch this account so it's not running ads. Before we do that, though, okay, maybe it'll do it now. Yes. So, as you begin to think about deconstructing, right, you don't have to just think about doing this for yourself in terms of like, or think this has to do with like you're not agreeing with what you've been told because it's just wrong. But history shows the movement of thought, the movement of who we are, how we are able to have a deeper level of understanding. I don't even believe that consciousness was even a word, right? We're getting new words that are being developed so that we have a greater understanding. The North had this enlightenment, which took place everywhere, while the South was having these great awakenings. I want you to notice the similarities of what we are going through today, what we're experiencing today. And then I want you to be able to look at your own life. Look at your own life. I want you to see this as more of a reflection on where we are as individuals, but also as the collective. We may seem small in numbers now, but you best believe, in order for us to move to the next space that the world has already gone to and going, the consciousness, it can't stay where it's been. That's the reason why you have so much suffering. So are we in trouble or are we in transition? It depends on the side of this story you sit on. But that's the question. And to answer it, we need to just take a step back and understand the two pivotal concepts, right? As I was saying earlier, Great Awakenings and Enlightenments. The Great Awakening, as we were reviewing that, are referred to periods of intense religious revival, particularly here in America as they begin to colonize America as they did the rest of the world. These were moments when the community sought a deeper spiritual meaning. A deeper spiritual meaning. That's what we're doing right now, folks. But it often challenged this established institution and organizations, right? No different than what happened earlier in time, even the 95 Thesis. We always come into these moments, but my thing is like, do we just want to come up with a new way of doing things? Or do we want to understand that the way we've been doing things needs to be dismantled, whether it would be in our minds, but also possibly in our lives for understanding? Because we'll find out later on, as I begin later down my notes here, why. But they essentially wanted to have a deeper spiritual meaning. Oh, sorry, my dog is annoying me. But essentially, we do know that they wanted to connect to a higher power, right? They wanted to check they wanted to question the status quo. Sorry, I guess my daughter didn't unlock the door. She came in the house and then locked the door so my wife can't get in. Okay. Oh, here we go. Great Awakenings. We're done with it. We'll go back and watch some of this. But I want you guys to remember, with those Great Awakens, we also had, looking at my notes here, we also had enlightenments. And then enlightenments, of course, was about reasoning. It was about science. It was about individual freedom. It was about, essentially, we would say even civil rights was, they were working and marching through the South for civil rights. But even if you look at slavery, it was kind of taking that same position. So I want you to know this case in point with your deconstructing journey. Would we be all sitting here with this stream being probably, 60% African American and then some African, right? Or American African, as I say, whole nother conversation, right? That era and that time was a lot of religion. They tried to say, and I heard someone say it today in a post, that it was the church that actually wanted to free the slaves, but it was actually the South, essentially, right? That had religion that was part of everyday life. It wasn't like it was in the North at the beginning, but it was such a part of everyday life that they didn't think anything of it. It wasn't like separated. It was like, church is a part of it. But we were having these enlightenments. People were expanding their understanding, and they were moving beyond the traditional, even dogmas of that time. Of course, embracing a more rational and conscious view of the world. That's the reason why a lot of the blacks, when they escaped or whenever they got out of slavery, they went up north. Frederick Douglass was in the north when he got pulled back to the south, right? Legends told he got a root from a root worker, and he put that root in his pocket, and he never had to worry about being a slave again. That's the story. The big differences between these two things: one would be considered more spiritual, calling on faith and heart-centered transformation, while the Enlightenment would be calling on mind and logic and reason, intellectual growth, innovation, right? They even had, being able to create different things of that era. But, the biggest thing that both of these things represent is transition. And even though when you think about, are you in trouble or in transition, I want you to understand that we are one, and we are one with nature, and we are one with things. And so how we feel about what's going on in our lives and in our body is also because of what's happening outside of our lives, outside of our body. We're not just merely wanting to not do what we've been doing and deconstruct because of it's just cool and it sounds fun and we're worried about just ourselves, or just because you having these feelings, or you're just connecting to something, that is like, man, I don't want to live that life anymore because there's a lot of suffering in it, right? There's a lot of lies and stories and all these different things that people are making up and saying that you got to do. And if you don't do it, all that's those different constructs that are happening in the church, that have happened in the church. It's not just because we're feeling it now for us as individuals. It's the fact that there is an expansion and there's expanded consciousness. We have no choice. They did it then. The Pentecostal movement as an awakening was a movement. It was something that they were able to connect with. I do not I don't negate the lived experience. It was a transition. I think it was a beautiful transition for them at that time, in that era, from what they were dealing with, to be able to go into a space in church and express their feelings through emotions. And I believe at the time, at that level of consciousness, I believe that they were having levels of transcendence for that time, especially being American African. And people like Bishop C.H. Mason bringing in his grandmother's ties to hoodoo. The Church of God in Christ wants to deny aspects of hoodoo being involved, but I understand why. That has a lot to do with the reason why we are in the position we are today, and the reason why there's more fighting within their institutions about who's not delivering the word, I guess, according to some original text, but really they're talking about nothing. They're just fighting, and feuding is something that you do within that space. That way there's no balance. You can't have balance in that space. It's not measurable. A transition is the process from moving from one state to another, often involving discomfort, uncertainty, and ultimately transformation. Do y'all need that again? I need to get up here and see what y'all talking about. Because y'all, if y'all should, I want you to hear it. Transition is the process of moving from one state to another. Are you doing that? Often involving discomfort, uncertainty, and ultimately transformation. Is there any discomfort happening in your life? What about uncertainties? That's the transformation, folks. That's not a just change. It's evolution. We're witnessing and experiencing. Our deconstructing is not something that we're basically voluntarily doing. Because if you're tapped in and tuned in and turned on to the higher self, and something begins to shake up in your life, and you say, no, that's stupid. I don't want to do that no more. No, I'm not feeling that anymore. Regardless of what somebody is going to tell me not to do, I'm going to do me. You do you. All this narcissistic behaviors of within the world and society as we be almost gaslit, right, by these same institutions to get us to do something, to drink the Kool-Aid. If you want to drink it, even some real Kool-Aid with a pound of sugar, you can do that stupid do. Because I'm not drinking Kool-Aid, let alone that other Kool-Aid. We're talking about evolution that's happening regardless if we want to or not. All you doing is just operating and feeling what's going on, and your consciousness is being expanded because you're already there. That is called the quantum field, right? It's at work in your life. That's where we are today, 100%. We're in the midst of a great transition. We're in the midst. I'm going to jump through. And we're going to go back to this video for a minute. Because I promise you, this video helped me with just understanding and realizing oh, it was already okay. What a night, folks. What a night. Here we go. There's a section. We're going to start about right here.
However, this shift towards emotive spirituality was controversial, leading to significant divisions within the religious communities. The awakening gave rise to two distinct groups, the Old Lights and the New Lights. And yes, this all relates to the modern-day divide. But basically, the Old Lights, made up of the Puritans, Baptists, and Presbyterians, rejected the revival movement, saying it wasn't true religion, but rather just a theatrical experience. Meaning the New Lights embraced this revivalist movement. They viewed the emotional experiences and passionate preaching as genuine manifestations of divine power and a necessary revival of true Christian faith. As you might have guessed by now, in the North, the Old Light was strong enough to largely maintain their hold. Meanwhile, in the South, the New Light, aka evangelicism, took off like wildfire. The Baptist and Methodist churches became dominant here. In these churches, there was less reliance on religious authority all the way through. While the Old Light churches thought that extensive education was necessary to interpret the Bible correctly, the New Light ones were more inclined to say that its meaning could be understood by anyone. If you were a farmer back then and felt called to preach and could gather a congregation, then you're already a minister. So there were a lot more Baptist preachers than any other denomination. And the South at this time was very rural, so this idea appealed strongly to people who might not have regular access to a church. This, combined with the inclusive message of offering salvation to all regardless of social status and race, resonated deeply in the hierarchical society of the South. These denominations grew rapidly in the South, establishing a strong evangelical presence more fully into the daily lives and identities of people across different social classes. In the North, even with the rejection of the movement, its emphasis on personal experience and questioning of authority in religious matters laid early influence for individualism and a questioning attitude in the North. which, combined with the region's focus on education and commerce, gradually led to a more secular society. That was just the first Great Awakening too. There were still 2, arguably 3 more after this. By the time the Second Great Awakening started, which was in about 1795, the United States had already officially become an independent country. The beginning of the Industrial Revolution had also very recently started in the US, and the Age of Enlightenment, even though it had started decades ago, was only reaching its peak around this time. So these two things combined to mark an increase in secularism and focus on the contemporary world and science. While the First Great Awakening focused more on existing members of the church, the second focused on attracting new members. So, to re-engage worshippers and attract new members, evangelical denominations again began to hold active, energetic tent revivals where faith was renewed. The earliest of the tent revivals focused on the Appalachian frontier, but they quickly moved into the area of the original colonies. These weren't small revival meetings either. Thousands would meet up at a time. Revival meetings were not restricted to the frontier or to white people, though. In many areas, particularly the South, black people had separate revivals at the time. The Baptist and Methodists often worked together in these revivals, with both religions believing in free will with personal redemption. The Baptists were highly decentralized with no hierarchical structure in place, and preachers lived and worked among their congregation, while the Methodists, on the other hand, had more of an internal structure in place. They had people traveling on horseback all over, converting people to the Methodist faith, and it paid off. By the 1840s, the Methodists were the largest Protestant group in America. Just to put all these efforts into perspective, they grew from 58,000 members in 1790 to 258,000 in 1820, and then to 1,661,000 by 1860. This growth factor of over 28 times in 70 years outpaced the national population growth, which increased by a factor of just 8 during the same period.
Outgrowing the population. Realize and understand this. You're in a big bowl of soup. And evangelicalism, Pentecostalism, what we see today is a reflection of our country, our lives, and what you see. Although we still have enlightenment, things like AI, things like streaming, I'm here to let you know that through all these movements and as these things were taking place, because we're going to jump through, because we'll go deep. I'm gonna go deeper in on this teaching on the within the community, and we can really spend some time in it, because the more you understand this information, I believe the more easier it is for you to say, okay, what am I doing? Okay, I'm a part of this. Okay, right? I can be whole and I can be free. Because as you understand this, and the reason why you understand this is because the limitation that you would have in understanding your spiritual beingness and the enlightenment era and the combination of the two, when spirit and what we would pray about is combining with science, and we're coming to find out we're able to do things that we may have sampled in the church and integrate those things into our life in a structured way, like meditation, and understand that we can have levels of transformation that's a little or a lot faster, if at all a person having a transformation, right, in this lifetime. Because some people that are stuck in that old thing, this is the reason they should be. You best believe it, because there's something that really happened that really changed this. And here we go.
really eroded the foundation of the third revivalist movement. So at this point in the timeline, there's been 3 great awakenings which created and heavily promoted evangelicism everywhere, especially in the South. And we're not done yet, arguably. While the concept of a 4th Great Awakening is heavily debated among historians based on if it had an impact equivalent to the first 3 to warrant the same title, what it certainly did do was cement the South as the region of the very religious people in the US. Having started in the beginning of the 1960s till 1980, this timeline lined up with the growth of the radio and television, which, when used for religious broadcasting and evangelism, played a significant role in spreading religious messages and connecting believers.
Civil rights, right? That's the time of the civil rights. So you tell me what the church was actually doing when it comes to the reason why we have some of the successes of the reason, as far as me sitting here with you right now.
There's even a word for it: televangelism. Keep in mind that farming in the South remained independent far longer than it did for the rest of the country. So small, isolated communities got their hands on radios and were connected to a much larger world. Within a single generation of early rural radio, you see the rise of someone like Billy Graham, who is now seen as the evangelist of the 20th century, and arguably the direct link between the controversial 4th Great Awakening to the present day. Being part of the Southern Baptists, he is a big reason it's now the world's largest Baptist denomination, and the largest Protestant and second largest Christian denomination in America. In the Bible Belt, Graham's evangelist crusades reinforced and revitalized evangelical Christian beliefs. His large-scale events and dynamic preaching style focusing on a personal relationship with God resonated deeply with the region's religious culture. His crusades through mass media reached millions, increasing the visibility and appeal of evangelicism. This heightened interest laid the groundwork for the growth of large evangelical churches. The mainline Protestant churches weakened sharply in both membership and influence, while the most conservative religious denominations, like the Southern Baptists, grew rapidly in numbers and spread across the United States. Soon, with so many members, megachurches came to be, and they won attention for the simple reason that 10 churches with 2,000 members were more visible than 100 churches with 200 members. So now we go to the modern day. Both Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton, the most southern recent US presidents, were raised in the Southern Baptist Church. In states like Alabama and Mississippi, 51% and 49% of adults attend religious services at least once a week. This contrasts sharply with states in the north like Maine and Vermont, where figures are 22% and 21%, as well as states in literally any other region, like Oregon in the west at 29% and North Dakota in the Midwest at 33%. However, there's more hidden factors at play here that I haven't explained yet. Because the North industrialized faster and really didn't have to rely on agriculture as much, they are richer regions. In fact, every region in America is richer than the South. Just look at this map of the poorest states of 2022. You'll see it generally mirrors the Bible Belt. And while this may be because of a variety of things, such as voluntary poverty, lack of education, or lack of opportunities, they are directly related. But the thing is, just like how Christianity has been on decline in the North for a long time, now it's in the entire US as a whole. And yes, that includes the Bible Belt. Christianity, the largest religion in the United States, experienced a 20th century high of 91% of the total population in 1976. This declined to 73.7% by 2016 and 64% in 2022. Ironically, the Southern Baptist churches, which, if you remember, weren't popular in the North, are declining in every region besides New England. That's right, it is literally the only region in the US where South Baptist churches grew. Overall, Christianity has been in decline in the US for a number of reasons, with some of them actually mirroring the same reasons that ended the Great Awakenings, such as a rise of rationalism and science, but also because of new factors like America becoming more multicultural and religion starting to get mixed more intensely with politics, which has disillusioned many people, especially the younger generations. An increasing number of Americans now identify as religiously unaffiliated, often referred to as nuns. And no, not those nuns. This group includes atheists, agnostics, and those who describe their religion as nothing in particular. The rise of the nuns reflects a broader trend of disengagement from organized religion. So I guess the question is, with America's Christian population set to dip below 50% by 2070, making it no longer the majority religion for the short history, is there anything they can do to stop this? It's not just a North or South problem, but a countrywide one. Or dare I say, is it even a problem at all?
Yes. The answer to that is yes. Yes, they're going to do something. Yes, they're doing something right now. Whether it would be demonize you or actually doing everything they can to actually either keep you in or kick you far as out as possible and let everybody know not to join you. But we are increasing in numbers in terms of the people that are spiritually independent. People that understand that I don't have to claim to be anything, although I can still follow whatever I want to follow. But I don't have to claim anything, right? I want you to know that, yeah, they may try to make you a nun because then it tries to make you out to be, right, one thing or another. But to be a person that has some level of Christ consciousness, some level of awareness, some level of inclusion, if you want. Do those things have to be described as one thing? According to what we just experienced there, it says yes. That's the reason why we want to appeal, or the reason why we end up starting churches or starting other institutions. And I'm to the point where it's like, do I have to, it's like we have this community, but does it need to be formulated in that similar way because it has permeated our culture, our societies? What that video did not address is the fact that that Southern Christ is actually global. Evangelicalism spawned Pentecostalism because evangelicalism started in the 1700s. Pentecostalism started in the 1900s, early, like 1906 or so, right? But it was like it was early, first 5 years when you had the Pentecostal movement. Those were what we call awakenings for humans. Enlightenments and secularism is what they end up naming that. But we want to use these ancient texts to guide us and to give us the way to live. Morality. That is hogwash. 100% hogwash. That's just another form of manipulation. We're in the midst of a transition, and you are it. Tag, you it. Transition, one more time, is the process of moving from one state to another, often being or involving, rather, discomfort, insecurity, or uncertainty, and ultimately transformation. This is not a change, this is evolution. And the big twist, this is just not historical. This is not us just reviewing this video just to be like, oh, this is how I got here. This is a great awakening and an enlightenment happening simultaneously. I think this is the first place you will hear it, because a lot of times you don't speak of these until after they have been experienced. And it might be, 50, 100, 200 years later that you may be talking about the Great Awakening. But now we can call it as we see it because we're the ones performing it. We're the ones doing it. We're the ones leading the charge. Because we are destructing our old belief systems, but our old beliefs, we're deconstructing our systems. We're deconstructing our paradigms, religious, culture, personal. We're discovering there's something deeper. And the truth of that is who we are. And when we go the next level, it's not only who we are, what are we really? What are we capable of seriously? Now we're getting into understanding, like, as we move through this within this expanded conscious space, we want to move through this and understand these things of why we come together, but we want to understand that this opens up the door for us to understand the quantum realm. This opens the door for us to understand that we are in a space now that we can connect to God if we want, in a way, because we know that we have that power within us. We have the divine connection within us. We know that we can begin to learn how to slow our breath. We can begin to learn how to slow our heart rate. We can begin to know how to heal our minds and heal our bodies. We know how to begin to, as we do these things, we begin to change the things around us rather than just praying to something and hoping. You heard the video when he said that it's between the homelessness and between the poorness, right, in the South, and where would we consider God living when we want to quantify God as who God is? The one who knows God in a given community is the one who has enough followers to actually agree. You got 6 million people, you got 20 million, whatever, you got that many people in your organization. That's a lot of people to refute. That's a whole bunch of people in that multi-level marketing Amway system. That's what it's like. It's like Amway. Those great awakenings, listen, the underbelly of that is capitalization. Capitalism, I'm sorry. There's a marketing effort, right? Then you have that televangelism with, he didn't mention TBN and PTL. I went to Oral Roberts, and they had so much money coming in that it is that marketing and that push becomes even more hardcore. Deconstruction is more than taking things apart. It is a path to reconstructing something. So as I deconstruct my reality, even outside my religious beliefs, right? If I'm just looking at the fact that, oh, wait, because then when you go to your therapist and you're talking about like some level of trauma you have growing up, you could be like, oh, it's, I'm a people pleaser. Why am I a people pleaser? And you go through that. Or a person may have some level of trauma that they experienced when they were a kid. And you go to a therapist, hopefully, so that you can bring those things up and you can have a conversation with them. And then if you need to take it a little further outside of talk therapy, you could begin to do other methodologies that we have learned over time using enlightenment, using science, that we know we can do within institutions, from hospitals to places they would perform, or you would speak to a therapist, right? What would we do if we weren't enlightened? But we're destructing the old systems, old beliefs, and religion and culture, and right, because we're discovering that there's something deeper, and we're discovering who we really are, right? It's not just taking things apart, we're reconstructing something better. I call it the authentic divine self. We're stepping into expanded consciousness where we're not just reacting to life, but we're fully tapping in, tuning in, and turning on. So the question is, how do these historical shifts affect us today and shape our future? I've already been answering it. Now it's your turn to contemplate. Write these things down. Okay? Hold it to your heart. How can we understand the interplay between the Great Awakenings and the Enlightenments and how that helps us through our transitions? So now we're just not nakedly deconstructing and just whatever that means, because you don't take any kind of deconstructing class. Now you can go through something with various people. Religious trauma. Dr. Dorothy has also done some things on deconstructing. But my thing is, I'm doing it from an expanded conscious perspective, meaning that we know that we may have to deconstruct our belief systems, but we also are deconstructing our reality. We also are realizing, understanding, and finding within ourselves other blocks that we may have. We have some energy, money blocks, money misunderstandings, money as far as learning how the energy of money works, how the energy of love works, right? How to see how people are treating you and understand how to treat them in return. Not that you don't love that individual, but then after you get abused by somebody and people taking advantage of you, right? Learning how to shift and move out of that, that's that transition. But the biggest thing, asking yourself this question, is how do we deconstruct to reconstruct a better version of ourselves? The authentic, the aligned, and the expanded self. I want you to know this is not a moment of transition. I mean, this is a moment of transition, but it is not a moment of trouble. It's opportunity. Hear me. It's opportunity. But it requires for you to move into a whole new space. Mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. This is an opportunity. It's a chance to awaken our deep truths. It's a way to understand and expand our consciousness and embody the highest potential of who we are. So, what we need to do is we need to lean into this shift together and discover what's possible when we fully embrace this time of transformation. This is a short deep dive in the journey of just awakening and our enlightenment, our self reconstruction. This is a time for us to understand, realize, right? When was it a time that we ever said we really wanted to know what self love mean? We didn't know what it meant. It's time to learn to love ourselves. And in order to do that, that's like basically knowing when to say no. Knowing when we're saying that's enough, right? Knowing when we're like, I'm good. And I think sometimes we can hit certain ages in our life that we don't have to really worry about what people think. But I will tell you that there are still people I know that listen to me that may be experiencing or will experience, have experienced loss, loss of friends, loss of family. And I'm talking about loss of them while they are alive, where people didn't, they didn't trust the people. I don't trust you, or you been a witch, or you been something. That's what people are. I know that's what some of y'all are experiencing. You're experiencing real life. One thing that I tend to do and I love to do, because I know for a fact that this can help each one of us. And if you don't have a practice, I'm gonna tell you to get one. I don't know why this does this to me. And that practice it's a meditation practice. There's different apps and different things that you can do to learn what meditation is and learn how to do them. Okay, it didn't go to the downloads folder. You can learn how to do these, do some levels of meditation, and it will be good for your soul. I need to do, this is something else that I will definitely post 100% in the community, and that is going over deeper lessons and understandings on meditation and what it does for your body. Google is I'm trying to start my music here. I hope you guys really enjoyed this evening. I enjoy you. This is just being mean. Let's see here. All right. That should be on my desktop. Sometimes things want to be ugly. Well, I'll tell you, as any of us is going through, that is so weird. As you are going through stuff in life, like you witnessed me experience multiple different things. This evening, I experienced a lot even this evening, and you just have to either take a moment, pause, or you may have to laugh as you experience life, because I know that the trouble that we feel like we're in is nothing to laugh at or nothing to not really feel, because I think there can be situations and things that everybody can experience, and those experiences are real. But as you're going through your experience, you have a choice that you can make. I want you guys to first give honor and thanks to expanded conscious community itself. That's everybody that's in the room. But also Dr. Joel Brown, who is the composer of our meditation this evening. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and get a little relaxed, because it is evening time. But also what this can do for you is help you move through and work through this moment right now. So one of the things that we do first is we pay attention to our breath. Just our breathing. As you pay attention to your breathing, what happens is your mind, brain, is going through a process too. It's going to begin to rewire and fire up new things. So as you experience this and hear this, get a moment, go ahead and close your eyes if you can. Take a deep breath through your nose. Go deeper than normal. Release it. Give it a moment for you just to relax. Feel in your body, feet, your legs, your hips, butt, back. Pulling it all together. And then I want you to come from the top of your head and move right down to your neck. Move your head around just a little. Twist your neck some. While breathing long. And as you feel your neck and feel it coming from your spine up to your back into your heart, and I want you to focus on your heart, where you would feel your heart is. Pulling down from your head and pulling up through to your heart. I feel like a real bright aura, a bright light. As you breathe in, deep breaths. Deep as you can, and release. No, you may have thoughts that come, but at this moment, I want you to thank yourself for being here, now, in this moment. And I want you to know that although we may have trouble all around us and things happening and bills due and health challenges, mental challenges, we got to take this moment right now to be with yourself. I'm going to just let those things go. And understand that this is the transformation. And this is your choice that you're making right now. Breathe and understand that your actions matter. The time you spend matter. And as we think about how we are deconstructing our faith, deconstructing our lives, what are we reconstructing? I would say a real, true, divine connection. To that spirit that they call God. But we're pulling it from within our heart. Deep breaths. Release. Another deep breath. And release. There is a new you. As everyone else experienced their troubles, you're witnessing your transition. You're witnessing your transformation. Now I want to take you a little deeper, and I want you to witness, and I want you to see yourself. I want you to have the feeling of joy. I want you to have the feeling that you know whatever you're experiencing right now, how would you feel if it was already done? How would you feel if you know that you have moved to the next stage, whatever that is? My feeling is gratitude. Thank you. Through all of our trials and errors, we begin to learn that we know something. Deep breaths, deep as you can, in your tummy, in your chest. Hold it. And release. All right. I want you to tell me, and I want you to know, and I want you to feel how you feel, but monitor how you feel right now. Whether it's not so good, that's fine. Feel it. My feeling is do better, Malachi, do better. There's things that I know I can do better on. Paying attention to time and paying attention to paying attention to what you say to yourself. A lot of us need to learn how to truly love ourselves. And as we love ourselves, that means we honor ourselves and we stay committed to ourselves, committed to our time. But feel in your heart the love that I have for you. We will revisit some of that, and I'm serious. that I have this. Let's make sure it's here. Thought I had it already ready to go. Oh, it's on a different screen. Oh, yeah, the community is posted in Facebook. I'll repost it. So that you guys can all know that I'm doubling down in terms of making sure that we can reconnect and do this on an individual level. I want to be able to have a Zoom and this month and be able to just actually have us all be able to come into a space together and introduce ourselves. I would love to get a few of us in there. If you get a chance, I'm going to send an email to that. If you want to take a picture or go and pause or whatever, there's the divineauthenticself.com. That's where I'm receiving emails. And I'm working my screens here, guys. There's different screens. There's a few people, you guys are in there. Expanded Conscious Community, it is on Patreon. Right? I'm making some changes here because I'm just going with the flow, trying to get things done. But I know I had a kind of reflection on how I want to do these things. So there's some changes I will make. But you still can go and sign up. I hope you guys had a wonderful evening. We got some closing. I'm going to look at these real quick. This is beautiful. Beautiful to see. Oh, yes, Deidre. The Azusa revival, which happened in the 1900s. I think that's probably more of a follow-up that can take place for us, is because that was definitely an awakening that that they had. We are definitely a part of that movement. Thank you, Miss Wynn. Thank you so much. Mrs. Marie, thank you so much. We got a shout out to Brother Joel. Yes, yes. I had to play that again because that is a beautiful. Hey, brother. Thank you for stopping through. Miss Higgins, you were wonderful. We appreciate it. Miss Velma, I know Bishop is happy. Thank you. Thank you so much. Miss Tia. Miss Codwell. Yes, opportunity. Loss of people who we love because they don't vibe with our frequency. Yes. Just a disconnection. Absolutely. It is a disconnection. It is. But it's going to be okay. Depending on how we move. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to do it. Just know I will be back next week. It's for us. People that want to connect. I appreciate it. I know it's late on the East Coast. It's 10 here, 10:18. So I thank you guys so much. I can do this all night. Possibly, hell, I'm a little tired today. But anyways, much love. Have a good one.